you all for joining the DPOinBOX Webinar Series. My name is Karthik, and I'm an international certified privacy consultant working with Straits Interactive and also part of the DPEX community, which is Asia's largest network of data protection officers and professionals. I also have with me my colleague Ben. He's from KL, and he's going to be a key presenter for this particular session. This is the 5th season of the DPOinBOX webinars, and this season is going to focus on the impact of the business on the business when the DPO uses this tool for running a data protection management program. And today the topic is on risk management. And before I get into the topic, I would like you to post any questions that you may have on privacy risk management. Me and Ben will do our best to answer them. Data protection is about risk management. An organization has many processes, and all processes have some level of risk. Even the simple process of we crossing the road in a traffic signal has some level of risk in it. So for an organization, there are multiple processes, and all these processes have some level of risk. And in fact, the first question that a regulator or assessment body asks the organization is, what risk assessments have you done in the organization? So, which is why we chose this topic today, the focus of today's presentation being risk management. Once the governance structure is set, once you have the data protection committee, the first step will be to identify the risks in the processes. Then the risks have to be assessed, prioritized, and control actions to mitigate them initiated, especially the ones that are posing very high risk to the organization. And this is not a one-off exercise, but has to be a living process that has to be done weekly, monthly, or periodically. And to conduct this efficiently and effectively, you don't want to start this all over again every time you do that. It is good to use a tool based on a valid framework that makes the job easy for the DPO and the people in the data protection committee. And by the way, stakeholders and regulators today are looking for standards-based compliance. And it can be a ISO-based standard, or in Singapore's case, it can be a data protection trust mark standard. But nevertheless, at least we are seeing a lot of inquiries, a lot of tender documents coming with the requirement for standards-based compliance. So that's becoming the in thing right now. And DPOinBOX provides a systematic approach to the process of risk management using specific standards. That's what we're going to see right now. As I said, DPOinBOX provides all of the above with just a few clicks. Once the risks are identified and documented into the system, as I said, the regulator and the stakeholders are looking for accountability. So DPOinBOX also demonstrates that, because you're going to record all the activities that you're doing with respect to your data protection management program. So there'll be evidences, there'll be a record of all the activities, ROPA as they say. So organizations face privacy risk in multiple areas. It can be compliance risk, inventory risk, process risk. All that is part of the whole risk management. And today we are going to present you with 2 live cases that we in Straits have faced from our clients to solve the problems that they had. And primarily we used DPOinBOX to solve their issues when they came to us. When DPOinBOX was used for risk management, that helped the DPO. In one case, it helped the DPO reduce the time by nearly 85% for generating a processes report that his headquarters asked him to do. And the second one is the DPOinBOX helping the DPO and the department get management focus and budget approval for a risk mitigation activity. Now, for the first one, which is the significant time savings that we had using the DPOinBOX, I'm going to invite Ben from KL to walk us through how one of his key customers used DPOinBOX for addressing the process risk and the huge benefit they experienced using DPOinBOX. Ben, Over to you.
Thank you, Karthik. All right. Today, I'm going to share with you a live case or live situation with our customer here in Malaysia. For those of you in Malaysia, hello there. For those of you elsewhere, hello. I'm going to share an current case study where an entity in Malaysia with a head office in the United Kingdom, right? So as part of the HQ's data protection activities or initiative, they are at the HQ level, they consolidate all the business processes that touches personal data. And part of it is also ensuring that the entities outside the UK also consolidate all their business processes that touches personal data, right? So as you know, the basis of the data protection law, it's all about the collection, usage, storage, and also disclosure of personal information within the entire organization. All right. So in this case, I would like to share with you how the customer actually managed to cut down the amount of time that they have done in the data mapping exercise, right? So the instructions, Karthik, are you seeing my screen?
Hold on, let me.
Yes,
I see Ben's dashboard. I see it as Ben's dashboard.
Okay. Okay, are you seeing a screen? Oh, sorry. You're seeing this, right?
I'm seeing Ben's dashboard, yep.
Okay, right. So in this case, the HQ has instructed the entity in Malaysia to provide a report in terms of their data mapping, right? So data mapping, in other words, with a documenting the business process, right? So the entity in Malaysia, previously before they actually take on DPOinBOX, they were actually doing it on an Excel spreadsheet, right? And this exercise took approximately 6 to 8 months for them to complete, for them to document down all the processes that touches personal data. At the same time, analyze those entries and provide a report on where the gaps are and also the recommendations for improving the gap. So when they took on the data protection, the DPOinBOX, here what you can see is, what I'm going to show you is actually a processes report of all the processes, all the processes which has been documented by an organization, right? And all these processes touches personal data. All these processes touches personal data. So as you can see, I'm going to take an example of the payroll, right? In this case, we see that the purpose of it is lawful, all right? In the collection and usage of it, usage aspect of it, there is consent obtained. There is actually notice, a privacy notice informing how the information is being collected. There's also a data minimization factor included in this, where only relevant information is being collected for the purpose of payroll. And there is a process in place to ensure that the accuracy or the data quality is in place, all right? Now, under the disclosure part of it, we can see that there could be a non-applicability of the disclosure or transfer, or in this case, there isn't a contract in place when disclosing information outside the organization, right? Now, under the storage, you see a retention period. There is a retention period. There is a retention policy in place. And there's also security or encryption when storing this information. And the most important thing is the access control to this information within the department or in this process of it. Now, this page or this report provides a bird's eye view for the data protection officer the DPO or the Data Protection Committee to see exactly where are the gaps in the processes or in the department itself, right? So from a management perspective, you can see that rates are not good. They will only want to see green, right? So the question is, how do you achieve this? How do you achieve to this report, right? So I'm going to take you through a process data mapping workflow, right? Which is part of the risk assessment is required by an organization to comply with the data protection regulation, right? Now, under the risk assessment area, there's 3 areas of risk. One is a compliance risk, which is the assessment against the relevant data protection laws. The other one, the next one will be the inventory risk. You want to know what information of personal data is being held by the organization. And the third one would be process risk, which identify all the flow of information within the organization, right? So I'll give you an example of documenting a particular process, right? So now in this case, you were to enter a new entry, you would click new entry, right? So now it depends on the number of license your organization is subscribing to. Now, if you can, in this case, select which department which is involved in this particular process. I'm going to take the payroll, for example, right? Now, if you were to create an entry, right, all these information will be required, such as your legal basis, what are the data subjects involved in this process, what are the data subjects or what are the individuals involved in this process, what rights do they have, right? Now, in this case, the technical measures in place, right? So this is the very beginning, which is the process repository. We just want to know at the highest level what information is being involved, collected. Now, when we move to the collect and usage repository, the system requires you to input information such as the type of data, the data, and this data is provided by who, right? And in certain cases, certain jurisdiction, if you are in the Philippines, or if you are in Malaysia, there is a special category of personal data, which is called a sensitive data, right? You would require to declare if you are collecting sensitive data, whether or not consent is being obtained, and whether there is a notice, privacy notice in place. And under the collection, if it's encrypted, and the use of it, right? And also some of the additional information to complete this process documentation, right? Now, moving on to the next segment of the disclosure, which is part of the information lifecycle. Here we see what are the areas that is being disclosed, right? So if it's disclosure category to the employees, right? Whether there's contract in place and whether or not, if there's a contract in place, whether or not the contract is being reviewed, and etc., right? Even down to the matter of transfer to the vendor and also the location of the vendor. Now, moving on to the last part of the information lifecycle, which is the storage. Now, here the system requires you to identify which system or application use, the number of records involved in this particular process, right? The retention period, and also if the destination disposal, and whether there's a retention policy and whether it's secure and there's control access, right? So when you complete this and submit, right, then you will able to see as a whole here in the processes report, and you can take, let's take payroll, just an example. We can see where are the potential gaps here, all right? Now, the payroll seems to be perfect, seems to not have any gaps, right? But you get an idea of documenting the business process and then identifying where the gaps are. Like in certain processes where you see there's no consent involved and there's no consent obtained, in the collection, there is no contract in place for certain processes which an organization discloses to a third party. And in the storage repository, we see that some certain processes do not have a defined retention period, or they don't have a retention policy, right? And some information which is being stored are not even secured and has no access control to it, right? So in short, the organization, one of our clients in the organization used a DPOinBOX to document all the business process within the organization. And initially, the head office has already pre-identified 33 business processes that touches personal data. By the end of the exercise, the whole committee has identified an additional 30 business process that touches personal data. And all of the business process has been documented in the system, all right? And all this is being done within 4 weeks, not only the documenting part of it, but also the analysis and the recommended action moving forward, right? So you see the difference of 6 to 8 months against 4 weeks, right? And I know some DPOs out there who is double hatting, right? Some of the DPOs are the lucky chosen ones who is being tasked to look into the data protection initiatives within an organization. Not only you have your day-to-day job that you need to look at, your day-to-day tasks that you need to attend to, but you also need to look into your data protection, which you have been tasked to look into, right? So now, wouldn't it be nice if you were to get some form of help in managing that and being productive, right? In ensuring that you get your assessments or your risk exercise being done quickly and effectively, efficiently, and in a structured manner, right? So I hope this sharing today help you to look into what are the requirements that you need to achieve in the organization in relation to data protection, right? And we'll be happy to share with you how DPOinBOX will be able to support your requirements for your data protection efforts, right? So I hope, and again, feel free to reach out to us.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Wonderful. I mean, 6 weeks to 8 months to 6 weeks. Wow. I mean, that's more than 85% saving in terms of time. This is a wonderful, and especially as you rightly pointed out, many of the DPOs we have seen are double hatting and triple hatting. And so this really helps them save a lot of time and effort in this. So great sharing, Ben. Thank you. So the second case is about a voluntary organization in Singapore. Now, in this, a department was handling personal data, was wanting to buy some equipment for storage. So they were going to basically buy some equipment for storage, but was not able to get budget approval for this. And this was going on for close to a year or more. And then can the approval be obtained in minutes using DPOinBOX? The answer clearly is yes. And that is what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so we'll have to get into DPOinBOX to see how quickly you can get into it. So that shows also this performance of the speed by which you can quickly get into it. So that's another feature that you can see in DPOinBOX. So, it's very, very responsive. It's a cloud-based tool. So you do get many benefits when the tool is based on the cloud. So as the topic today and our discussion today is very much on risk, so we are going into risk management. So we go into the manage risk area in this. And I'm going to show you very soon as to how this department, the marketing department in this voluntary organization, which basically was engaging and handling donors and volunteers and putting their individual files. They had folders for each of those donors and volunteers, and they were creating individual files for them And unfortunately, for lack of space, these files were kept in the open area. So there was a huge risk. The DPO, as part of his, as part of his duty, said there has to be some risk control put in place. And the key risk control that he advised was to put in a cupboard with lock and key. And upon the DPO's request, the marketing department put up a request to purchase request to for buying the cupboard. The procurement department kept pushing it off, saying, hey, there's no budget approval, we don't have budget, and etc. Usual story, as we all know. And so this matter was running for quite some time. The privacy consultant in Straits was running a hands-on workshop for this voluntary organization, was made aware of the matter during the course of the workshop, and he said, let me show you how one can get the management approval in a matter of minutes. So, and that's what we're going to see here. So we go into risk register. He basically guided the marketing department. So I'm going to get into the marketing department here, and then add new. So I'm going to add a new risk here, and then the risk primarily being the files being kept in the open area, right? That's the risk we saw. So, which is what we need to kind of identify it as the risk, and then we create the risk and see how we can address that particular aspect. So let me do the entry, and clearly, as you can see, when you make the entry, because it has to be valid and has to be understood by any third-party person. So the guidelines is given that you use the cost, context, and consequence of how you create the particular risk. So I just created the risk. So it's basically client folders stored in open area in Office leading to potential exposure of data. And because there's a burning issue, you want to get this closed as soon as possible. So maybe at best you want to get it closed by 15th of March. If there are any more comments you want to make, you just make the comment. And clearly the business process is part of this, the marketing campaign that the voluntary organization is doing. So then you kind of submit it, and then you look at providing the rating. So you've identified the risk, then you want to see what's going to be the impact of the risk on the organization. And that's what we call the inherent rating. Because the DPO had looked at the thing, and his advice was that this is clearly the business impact is going to be very, very high, because voluntary organizations, as you know, depend on donations from these donors. And so clearly the very survival of the VWO depends on the donors. So this is very, very sensitive data. So the business impact is going to be very high if the donors go away. So you can put some evidence here. You can even put some photos of those files in the open area. You can do that, and you can save it. The probability of the leak or probability of the breach is again going to be very, very high, because as I mentioned to you in the background, these files were kept in the open area in the office. So clearly there was going to be a huge risk and the likelihood of that breach happening. So clearly you chose the business impact and the probability being very high. And then based on the risk metrics that the organization had put together in the back, you see the inherent rating as 10, really very, very high risk here. And once the risk has been identified, you want to treat it. You want to do whatever is required to mitigate that. And that, in technical terms, is the treatment. So you click on that and you put the treatment name. So basically, it's purchase of filing cabinets with lock and key. And then you want to put it in a very specific place. So you can also do that, give the description here. So you identify the space in the admin office where you're going to put this filing cabinet and things like that. And then primarily the policy that is going to be affected by this is basically your information storage and retention, right? Because this is basically all to do with storage. There you go. So you chose that policy that will get impacted, or that the policy that impacts this particular activity that is being done. So then once you choose that, then you choose the status. but you save it. But before you do that, you choose the status 2. And here, what you're trying to do by this treatment, you're basically trying to avoid the risk, right? So you click on the appropriate choice. Here it's avoid, and then you save it. So there you go. So this is being done. And then the action that needs to be done. So this is done by the marketing department, but they don't buy or they don't get involved in the procurement of it. So they want to pass the action to the department that procures. So you might want to pass this to, maybe you've taken the dimensions of this particular cupboard that you're really looking for, and you probably have done some homework. You got some, indicative budget here, and then you choose that, and then choose which department is going to really work it on. And let's say in this particular VWO, it was the HR department that was responsible even for the admin and the procurement aspect. So that was chosen. And so I'm giving you a real life situation here. And then you give a date to the department, right? You want, as I told you earlier, this was urgent. And so you say you want to get it done, you want to do it immediately, and you want to end it, by, say, the first week of March. And you choose that, and then you go to the next one, which is scheduling, and it's going to be repeating, no. So you just choose that it's going to be just one time, and then you save it. Now, once this is done, this was what was done by the marketing department on the guidance from the consultant. And while doing the management presentation at the end of the program, the consultant basically showed this particular entry, which also, by the way, updates the risk heat map to the executive. So let's see what happens. So we can see the risk summary here. This department was basically the marketing department. So I'm just going to get to that. So as you can see here, the risk that's been identified and put in here, whatever you entered is basically seen here, and you see the inherent score, the combined score. And then he basically showed the risk heat map. This is going to be a revelation, guys. So there you go. So when this kind of hit the executives like a bomb. So so this clearly shows, it maps basically the heat map, shows where the risk is and how important or how critical the risk is. That's why you have it in the red color. The traffic signal colors are used. It's red. And it's 10, it's, 10 upon 10. In this case, you would not like to have a 10 upon 10, but this particular risk is scored a 10 upon 10. This hit like a bomb to the management. And when they saw this huge red circle and the impact on the business, they asked for the solution. This was just, the consultant just clicked on it and basically showed what we just went through, right? So he saw the description of the task. The management team immediately approved the solution that was presented, which is basically procurement of the cupboard with lock and key. So on the spot approval for the purchase was done using this. We spent maybe 3 minutes on this particular exercise, but it was so important for the management to see the important aspect of the risk that was involved and the impact on the business that it's going to happen. So primarily, I just want to summarize the managed program feature in the DPOinBOX helps in prioritization of your risk, assessment of the risk, and helps put controls in place. And if required, as we just saw, get the management attention and focus on the key risk areas, saving a lot of time and effort. And by the way, we also had a similar situation in Straits too. When COVID struck and employees had to work from home, employees were now going to use their own home Wi-Fi, which typically is unprotected. So when the CTO of Straits checked on the antivirus software version, 60% of the employees' computers, the laptops had outdated software, posing a very huge risk for an organization such as us, which is professing privacy and data protection. So he used the same DPOinBOX tool, presented the business case to the management, and they're using the same thing, that same steps that we walked through right now, and then got immediate approval for the purchase of the new software license for all employees. So that's how you put DPOinBOX to good use, and it really helps the DPO save a lot of time and effort in convincing the business case that he has. So with that, I'm just going to show you an overview of the DPOinBOX features. So this basically summarizes some of the key features of DPOinBOX here. As I mentioned during the course of presentation, it's a software that's cloud-based, so easy to do updates. I think Ben was mentioning about the fact that we might right now we have the software for certain jurisdictions. Newer and newer jurisdictions get added. We can just add those jurisdictions, those frameworks into the DPOinBOX pretty easily. The second is e-learning resources, primarily to keep the staff, the employees updated on this. So DPOinBOX also has an e-learning module under the sustain part of it. So you have the e-learning and you also have the competency tests, because I think all these are required also by the regulators when they come knocking on the door. So clearly DPOinBOX provides that ability also for the organization. Then it's designed to cater to multiple jurisdictions, whether it's PDPA in Singapore or DPA in Philippines, or even GDPR when you're having customers in the Europe, or if you decide to go on the ISO 27701 platform to get your certification, or you want to get the Singapore certification of DPTM, all those frameworks have been mapped onto data protection, as you can see in this. So under the compliance risk aspect, you can have all the frameworks loaded. We also do a lot of webinars, as one of that we are doing right now. So we have specialists come and talk through the use cases that adds a lot of value to the DPOs. Extensive software support. Even let me show you, even in the DPOinBOX, you have video tutorials, for all the 4 stages of your operational life cycle. So that's all part of the DPOinBOX. So there's a lot of support available. We don't just make you buy the software and then leave you high and dry. So there's a lot of help from the consultants, a lot of help that's being built into the tool itself. So all that is available as part of the DPOinBOX. And the real-time dashboards. We're going to spend some time on that. So real-time dashboards, you get the compliance reports, you get the process reports, you get the data inventory. I think we saw all of that when Ben did his demonstration. We get the risk register report. I showed you this, the data heat map that's possible, all real time, by the way. Then even in your e-learning, you would, let's say the organization is 50 or 100 strong, and you want to know how many of those 100 people have gone through the training that you as a DPO have blasted to them. So again, this gives you a real-time dashboard of how many people have completed the course, how many people you have assigned in total. All that is part of the of DPOinBOX, by the way. So you really know what's going on, in the organization. So that's possible with DPOinBOX. You can manage the risk. Risk heat map, we saw that in detail. And with that, you actually implement a well-documented management program. And then the other cool feature in the DPOinBOX is how you respond to situations. Now, the situation can be because of the unfortunate situation of having a breach, personal data breach in the organization, or it can be a request from a data subject, excuse me. So all this can be managed within the DPOinBOX itself. So for breach management, you might be putting a plan together. So all that can be documented inside the incident management portion of the DPOinBOX, right? With that, I just want to wrap up today's presentation with my call to action. The first thing I would do is, in case you don't have a trial account, you want to get a better feel of the product, as they say, wet your feet and hands. So you can sign up for a free 30-day trial account. And we also have a 2-day training course for this to get a better feel of the use of DPOinBOX. And for people in Singapore, this particular training program also gets SSG funding. And SSG funding, as you know, gets a maximum 90% of the program cost being funded by the government. So a very, very nominal sum for going through this particular training. If you already have a free trial account and you want to get the full features of it, subscribe to the paid account. And if you're already subscribing to one paid account, you might want to get all the departments that are using personal data to have an account on their own and pass the responsibility. Because as I said, DPO might be multi-hatting, so they may not be able to do the job for the entire organization. And larger the organization, larger the issues. So you might want to buy the license for each one of those departments. And if you want to know more about how the DPOinBOX really works, you want to have a one-on-one demo to the data protection committee or to the management, please do reach out to us either by email or by calling us, and we'll be there to help you out, walk you through the DPOinBOX demo, right? And I mentioned earlier on the DPEX network. This is a storehouse of resources, videos, articles, blogs, details on all the courses that are available on data protection. So you become part of a DPO community. Even jobs, by the way. So we've added another feature into it of the jobs that are there in the data protection sector today, which is growing, by the way. So clearly an opportunity to interact with professionals, be up to date with what's happening in this particular sector. So for that, become part of the DPEX community if you're already not one. By the way, this is the cost of membership is $0 right now. There's no charge. And so please do become member of the DPEX network to take full advantage of all the resources that are available. At this juncture, I'd like you to take a few minutes to provide your feedback on the session. If you've already done so, it's great. Thank you for joining and spending time to understand how DPOinBOX can be used as a tool for risk management in an effective and efficient manner. Thank you.